What do you think about the intro music for these?
This is something you want to put in the video?
Yeah, I was aiming for super pretentious.
Well, I think you succeeded.
What'd you watch this month?
I watched the first Mad Max from 1979, which, of course, we've both seen a bunch of times. But I actually liked it more this time than any other time I've seen it, for two reasons. Number one, I watched it with subtitles on for the first time, so I actually understood what everybody was saying. And that's obviously that's kind of a joke, but at the same time, there was a lot of stuff that I never picked up on that people are saying in the background, on the radios and stuff like that. I never really paid attention to it, but it's actual stuff that relates to what's happening. The other reason was I was talking to somebody about how I like the first two more than Fury Road, and she had only seen Fury Road. And so when I watched it, I told her to watch it too, and I imagined what it would be like seeing it for the first time as kind of its own movie. I think a lot of people nowadays see it as an origin movie because they know there's more Mad Max movies, but the first movie is just a movie by itself. I think calling it Mad Max was kind of a mistake because he doesn't turn into Mad Max until the end of the movie. He's just a guy. And I think it works a lot better if you just watch it as a movie and not saying, where's all the post-apocalyptic stuff and, where's all the guys in the leather?
Well, I think it has a better ring to it than just regular Max, normal Max.
Yeah, I mean, they could have called it Interceptor or something, the name of the car or whatever.
So, did you not like Fury Road? Okay, are you reenacting the movie right now?
I liked Fury Road. I just thought the first two were still better. I mean, I think everybody agrees that the third one is not that great. I think a lot of people overlook the first one.
I would agree.
Because they say, well, it doesn't have all the post-apocalyptic stuff. It doesn't have as much in the way of the car chases and stuff like that. But it's a different movie. If you take it as what it is, I think it works a lot better. It's just that it's not what people are expecting. And I think it makes people kind of go to the other ones instead. I think it deserves a little bit more attention.
What else you got?
The next thing I watched, coincidentally, was another Australia set movie, The Howling III from 1987. Although in the movie itself it comes up as The Marsupials, The Howling III. I think the reason I had never watched this one before was because it's the only one that's PG-13, and I just kind of found it hard to get interested in a PG-13 werewolf movie. But if I didn't know it was PG-13, I never would have suspected that. It was directed by the same guy who directed The Howling II, and I showed you a little bit of that one, so you know how terrible that was. I can't believe they let him direct another one. It was still really bad, but The Howling II was a movie that made me really angry, and I actually liked this one. They're both really weird, but this one pushes it as far as you could possibly go.
Well, I think part of what made you so angry about the second one is the first one was so good.
That's true. I did know this was the same director, so I went in expecting it to be weird and not make a lot of sense. And that may be why I enjoyed it more to a certain extent. But I liked how unique and just unusual, I mean, every possible synonym for weird perfectly fits this movie. There's a scene with a werewolf skeleton that attacks somebody at one point, and it never gets explained, and I still, after watching the movie, have no idea what that was about. I think part of why it's better than the second one also is because it's not a parody maybe, but it is trying to kind of make fun of horror movies in a way, and some of that kind of works, or you can at least see what they're getting at. Then at the same time, there are other things that are just genuinely stupid and don't make any sense. But I could definitely see doing a video on this movie in the future because this one is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. It reminded me of Body Melt a lot. Actually, the guy in Body Melt that had the worm things coming out of his throat, he was in this movie, although I don't think he had any lines. Yeah, the weirdest acting ever, weird fourth wall breaking stuff that makes no sense, the weirdest storyline ever, weird time jumps that don't mean anything. There's a scene where they're shooting a werewolf movie, and I like how they make fun of the bad effects in that movie, but then when you see the actual werewolves in this movie, sometimes they look even worse. But it was really interesting. Very strange. Definitely worth checking out, although I can't actually call it a good movie. I watched Humanoids from the Deep from 1980, Roger Corman movie about fish people that kill men and rape women. Why? I don't know. It just happens. It was pretty good. That's about all I have to say about that one. No, it's better than it sounds, I guess. I don't know. I know the director was really pissed because after she finished the movie, Roger Corman was like, we need more nudity in there. And she didn't know about that until she actually watched the final movie. And she was really pissed about that, but they wouldn't let her take her name off, which is understandable. It's not the movie that she made. I enjoyed it. I liked that the monsters were not invincible. It seemed like they were actually not that hard to kill. It's not like the kind of thing where people keep shooting it and it keeps getting back up. At one point, this girl fights one off just using a rock that she's holding in one hand. The first half was kind of slow, but once it picked up, it was pretty good. And the monster effects were by Rob Bottin, so they were mostly pretty cool when they show the monster face up close. But there is one of the costumes that they use that has these arm extensions that just look really stupid. It reminded me of the God Monster from Indian Flats, or whatever that movie was called.
You mean our most popular video on this channel?
Yes, that one. But I enjoyed the movie. And the only other movie I watched was a movie from 1971 called The Vampire Happening.
Oh, I really want that to be The Happening, but with vampires. I don't really know how it would work, but Mark Wahlberg would be running around and there would be vampires somehow.
Blowing around in the wind.
Yeah, and they'd be like, "You're here to stake me." And he'd go, "What? No."
This was a German production, but it was directed by Freddie Francis, who's a British director who directed a lot of other horror movies, including some Hammer movies and stuff. I read a comment from him where he said he had nothing good to say about this movie. It was basically a vehicle by the producer to get his wife topless in half of a movie, basically. And it was supposed to be like a parody of vampire movies, but for the most part, it felt like you were just kind of supposed to think it was funny by default. So much of the humor was sex or nudity related humor, which I don't find funny in the first place. But even then, it was dumb. There were some funny parts. I liked the old guy. That's the only guy that actually believes that there are vampires and is trying to convince everybody throughout the movie. But every time he tries to bring them proof, something goes wrong in a sitcom-y kind of way. But his acting was really funny. His physical acting and the British guy that dubbed him were both really funny. But I couldn't recommend this movie. I mean, to give you an idea of some of the jokes, there's a scene where Dracula eats a banana. Did it make me laugh? Yes. But that's because I'm a little kid inside. There's another scene where instead of slashing tires with a knife, a vampire bites the tires with his teeth. So again, that's the kind of humor you're getting from this movie. And then the rest of it is just a bunch of boobs in terms of the female body part and the type of person. And that's all I watched. I didn't read anything because reading is a waste of time. I did finish Medal of Honor Frontline, which felt like a huge achievement. Playing it on hard reminded me of playing through Rogue Squadron on hard. Very satisfying to finally beat it, but it was really difficult. But it was really good. Definitely one of my top 10 PlayStation 2 games.
Well, now you're almost caught up to the present. You realize they're on PlayStation 5 now, right?
Yeah, I heard some rumors about that. So what have you watched this month?
I watched quite a bit. Good spread of stuff. I watched Vertigo from 1958, which I've never seen before, with Jimmy Stewart. It's a good movie, so I don't watch those, as you'll see further into this list. For being one of Hitchcock's most talked up movies, I walked in with really high expectations. And it was good, but I wasn't passed out from joy. I thought it was pretty long. But then I wonder, at the time, how was that perceived? I think it's really funny to see Jimmy Stewart be angry at somebody. He's such an unassuming, level-headed guy. Now you listen here. I'm getting really angry with you. I'm about to take both my shoes off. I watched The Last Castle from 2001 with Robert Redford and James Gandolfini, which was a prison movie. Robert Redford is the prisoner. It's all about the two sides opposing each other. It was actually pretty dumb. It's supposed to make you feel like you're on the side of the prisoners and they're being oppressed or whatever, because they're being manipulated and humiliated. But Robert Redford does the same thing, but he's the good guy. Not worth watching. I watched the first season of Upload.
Never heard of it.
It's 2020. After you die, you can pay to have your consciousness uploaded so you can live forever. But depending on your financial situation, it depends on what kind of existence you have. And it was made by the guy who did the American version of The Office. So I thought I knew kind of what it would be like, but it was not. It was very scripted, story-driven. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it had some humorous elements, but it very much felt like a 2020 show.
Yeah, I mean, I see that as a negative.
I know. I watched Tropic Thunder from 2008, and once I saw it was from 2008, that made me feel pretty old. I remembered not liking it when I first saw it, and after I watched it this time, I still don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to me like it would be the same thing as Dodgeball again, where everybody thinks it's the funniest thing ever, but it's not that funny.
Right. I watched It's a Mad, 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 Mad World from 1963. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I know it's got like every comedian ever or whatever, which you'd be more familiar with them than I would.
And that's the thing. There are so many people in it, that was the push. It is a long movie. It is over 3 hours long. I know who some of those people are. But if I asked you, do you know who Phil Silvers is? Do you know who Milton Berle is? You might say no. Or even if you did, you'd say yes, but I'm not familiar with their material. It was 63. Maybe it was uproariously funny for the people back then. But for me, it just dragged on. It got pretty stale. The same jokes going on and on and on. And they throw a lot of physical comedy into it too. So if I'm arguing with you and we're in a car, while we're arguing, we're going to keep getting in and out of the car in different doors, and it's going to be humorous.
Okay.
I watched Casino Royale, but the parody one from 1967, which kind of reminded me of what Austin Powers did, but much more dry. That's all I really have to say about that. I had always read about it, and it popped up, and I said, I'll give it a shot. I watched Uzumaki from 2000, the movie adaptation of the manga.
I saw the trailer.
It was better than I expected, but it was finished before the manga was finished, so they didn't know how it was going to end. Not that that really mattered. It was weird, got the atmosphere decently enough, I guess, but I wouldn't watch it again. And I think they're either doing or have done a show.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a Netflix thing if I remember right.
I watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 78. I was actually showing somebody else. That's a good movie, man.
I agree.
I'm not a huge Donald Sutherland fan, but he's good in that.
Yeah, he's always one of those actors that I usually don't pay attention to, but then I think about it, and he is in a lot of things that I like.
I know you're a huge fan of the Hunger Games.
I didn't know he was in those. Okay. All right, maybe I should watch him then.
Yeah, he plays one of the knives.
See, I don't know if that's a thing that's in those.
Really cool special effects in Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
I watched Cool World from 92. Have you ever seen that one?
No, but I know what it is.
It was exactly what I expected, which means I was very underwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
The focus is so much on the animation. Some shots hold for a really long time after the scene has ended, basically, where the animation just continues to show you that there's animation. One of Brad Pitt's earlier movies, he is not good. He's just not good. Even the story is so all over the place. It was difficult to watch.
Do you know who directed it?
Yeah, it was Ralph Bakshi or whatever his name is. I don't know how to say his name.
I think that's right.
So he has this cartoon romantic interest, and he always walks next to her and puts his arm around her shoulder, but it looks so awkward. They did not do that well. I watched Erik the Viking from 1989, which was really pushing to be a Monty Python type thing. So instead of King Arthur going after the Holy Grail, it's Erik the Viking going to find something. As you could tell, it was extremely memorable.
Who's in it or who directed it? Because I might have seen that.
Terry Jones directs it, so that's the Monty Python thing. He's in it too, and John Cleese is in it. Like, Monty Python and the Holy Grail moves forward, and it goes off on tangents, but it still stays relatively focused. The pacing was really off on this one. If something went off on a tangent, it went for way too long, or it wasn't funny. Tim Robbins is the main character, which was weird. He's not funny, to me at least.
Well, you haven't seen Jacob's Ladder. He's really funny.
I'm going to assume that's not a comedy.
Yeah, I think I saw that movie, but the fact that I don't remember for sure, I think probably says everything.
He's in comedies, but I don't think he's funny. Go back to prison, or whatever you did in that movie. I prefer him digging through a tunnel of shit with a spoon. He was in 4 comedies. None of them were very good. I watched A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum from 1966, the movie, which was originally a Broadway production, but I watched the movie version. It's Stephen Sondheim, Ancient Rome. I watched 10 Little Indians, but the version from 1989, which is based on that Agatha Christie mystery. And that version has Donald Pleasance. Spoiler alert if you've never read or seen any of the versions of it, but he's bad. It was really funny because you're supposed to have this sense of mystery of who's killing everybody, and it turns out to be him, but the entire movie, he does everything overtly suspicious. You know how in mysteries, characters will point out, well, that's pretty suspicious, you did that, and everyone goes, yeah.
Yeah.
He does that for every other character, but nobody ever does it for him. So it's pretty clear he's manipulating everybody. And someone will say something or do something, and he'll say, well, I know who I don't trust right now. And he'll open his eyes really wide and look to the side, and everybody else will go, yeah. And then he'll do the Mr. Burns thing with his hands and go, and at the end of the movie, when he turns out to be the killer, you would have to be really stupid if you went, oh my gosh. Oh, it also had Frank Stallone, Sylvester's failed clone. Or maybe the other way around, I guess, if you want to look at it. Because, Sylvester Stallone kind of looks weird sometimes, too.
What else is Frank Stallone in? Because I know I've seen him in things, but I can't picture him. Did he do a famous song?
He did the song Far From Over.
What is that from?
It's from the Staying Alive, that Travolta movie from the 80s.
I never saw it. I don't know. Maybe I've heard it or something.
I watched Frankenstein, a made-for-TV version with Parker Posey in 2004, which was set in present time, 2004. And since it was a TV budget in the early 2000s, the main color palette is gray. This doctor who is basically just making people, and the goal is to have them take over the world? There's a big question mark on that. And Parker Posey is a police detective who encounters one of these creations. Michael Madsen is in it.
Wait, he's not the monster? Who's the monster?
Well, it turns out the doctor is the real monster. There's one point where he's having sex with one of his creations, and if that wasn't weird enough, it's Michael Madsen. No, just kidding. It does this thing where it shows his back, and his whole spine is sticking out with like weird green alien shit. I'm not really sure what was going on there. Michael Madsen is one of the creations, I think. Obviously, this movie was so good. There's just one scene, though, where he has a bunch of body parts in refrigerators up in the attic of his apartment building. But the refrigerators are stacked vertically, so I don't even know how he would have gotten to the ones even on the second level, let alone the third or the fourth. And how they didn't just topple the over. Or how it even fit in that building. I might have to watch this movie again.
I'm pretty sure I left a tape recording that back when it first aired, and then I never actually watched it.
Well, don't. And at the end, Parker Posey teams up with this other dude who's like the first creation. And he says, all right, let's go get him. And she's like, I'm with you. And then the movie is over. It was that simultaneous thing where the movie seems really short, but it also seems like it's going on forever because there's no sort of pacing. I was very confused.
Yeah, it sounds great.
I took a total gamble. I did that. I try and do once a month where I pick some random ass movie that I've never even heard of. It doesn't matter what year it's from. It doesn't matter what it's about. Just do that Russian roulette and usually end up getting the chamber with the bullet. And this month was no different. I watched a 2021 movie called Soul Invictus. It was a sci-fi movie. The premise was teams from different academies get put on a random planet, and whoever can find Earth's sun using their team skills first wins. And I was like, okay, I can live with that premise. The movie itself, it was low budget, which is fine. I mean, you can have low budget movies that are still good movies. Mm-hmm. The cast of this movie, I want you to imagine somebody went to a college lacrosse team and said, hey, do you guys want to pretend that you're actors? It takes legitimate skill to act as bad as these people were. I wanted to laugh, but cry, but vomit, all at the same time. I watched The Darkest Hour. It was 2011.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to see that.
Another sci-fi movie about aliens that kind of took the form of just lights.
Okay, you're serious? I thought you were talking about The Darkest Hour with Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill.
No,
Okay.
no, no.
I should have known better. Okay, so that is not the movie I wanted to see then. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this was a sci-fi movie about aliens who come down in the forms of lights. When they encounter people, they turn them into dust, so everyone's running away. The main cast is one of the few people left. I think they're in Russia, and they have to try and find other survivors and somehow find a way to survive, which is typically what survivors do. The writing was really bad. So there were all these characters, multiple characters, at multiple points throughout the movie would make these assumptions and state them out loud like it was a fact, but then they would be right, I guess, maybe. We never found out, but everyone just assumed they were right. For example, nobody knows anything about these aliens. These are just a couple random people. Most of the people on Earth have been wiped out, and they see one of the aliens, start blowing up part of the ground. And the one character goes, they're digging for something. But there's no indication of that. And even at the end of the movie, there's no indication of that. He just says it, and everyone goes, but for what?
That reminds me of Bird Box.
Also, one of our most popular videos on this channel. But they do that a lot, where they just say things, and they're true. Here's another example. When they say, why do you think they're here? And keep in mind, these are people who are just everyday people. They don't have scientific expertise. I think there were tourists who were just coming here to get laid. The one guy goes, why are they here? And the other guy says with such conviction, Earth is full of precious metals. It was like in the writer's room, this group of people, and one of them would ask a question, well, why are they here? And somebody said, what if they were here for the precious metals? And they said, okay, that's good. Just have a character say that. And that was it. That was the movie. I watched The Big Lebowski, which I don't remember liking very much, but watching it now, again, I did like it.
I've only seen parts of it, and the reason I never saw the whole thing, which includes Monty Python and the Holy Grail as well, is because it was always a bunch of dumb people saying, oh man, this movie's so funny, and it just made me not want to watch it.
Exactly. So I watched it, trying to get rid of those thoughts. I did like it. I think Jeff Bridges plays his character very well. I think my favorite character is probably Julianne Moore, though. I would give it another chance.
Okay, I mean, I've always intended to actually watch it, but...
And the Coen brothers, for me, have like a hit and miss. Like some of their movies I think are so good, and some of them I'm like, eh.
Yeah, I agree.
I watched another 2021 movie called Cosmic Sin.
So what exactly is the motivation for watching a movie from 2021 with a dumb-sounding title like that?
Masochism.
Okay.
Because, sci-fi, I like sci-fi as a genre, and sometimes good things still happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes I like torturing myself by not doing any research beforehand and just diving in and being incredibly disappointed.
It is usually true nowadays that when a good sci-fi movie comes out, it's one of the ones that flies under the radar that's not a studio movie or something.
Well, let me tell you, this one was banking on Bruce Willis being in it.
Oh. Enough said.
So Bruce Willis is this former military guy, and they find aliens on this planet, and they pull him back in. But nobody likes him because he killed 3 billion people. You remember when he did Die Hard 4. And that's the thing. I don't mind Bruce Willis if he's in a good movie.
Yeah. I think nowadays he definitely... You can kind of feel his arrogance and his feeling that he's better for whatever movies he's in most of the time.
And I've read a lot of accounts that that's exactly how he is on set when they're making the movies. He's just phoning it in, especially for something like this. He really thought, this is it, Cosmic Sin. And he delivers every line the same way now, where he seems like he's treating it like a joke.
Yeah.
You want me to do what?
Yeah, I mean, I can picture the dumb expression on his face, too, when he says it.
Half squint, looking
Half
to
smirk.
the side a little bit. Yeah, with that little smirk. I watched Team America from 2004, which was another movie when it came out. Everybody was talking about it. It was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
I remember liking it back then, and I watched it now. It is pretty damn funny. There are those dumb jokes, but I mean, Parker and Stone have that sense of humor where they are intelligent, but they still put in some of those really stupid jokes.
Yeah.
sometimes, and those are the ones I do not find funny. But then when they get that intelligent writing in there, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
So I would watch it. And the attention to detail on all these puppets and stuff and the sets is just incredible. It was way more than I remembered. I know they had a lot of trouble making it of how complex everything was. Kyoto Brothers, well, they were behind the puppetry work. I watched the Happytime Murders from 2018, which was the movie with the puppets, where puppets and people exist together.
Oh, yeah. Who's in it?
Melissa McCarthy, who I
Okay.
know you love.
Uh-huh.
But here's the thing, it was directed by Brian Henson, which I was a little surprised.
Yeah.
It wasn't really that good. It was really just banking on the fact that puppets and people and jokes about that.
Yeah. Did Melissa McCarthy scream a lot?
She's more of a yeller. She's not really a screamer, she's a
Yeah,
yeller.
well, okay. Semantics, yeah.
You would not like it. I didn't really like it.
Okay, I'll check it out.
I watched Congo from 1995, which was way better than I remember. It was so funny.
What was it supposed to be?
That's a good question. It had humorous moments that I thought were legit funny. I remember it as a kid being more of a serious movie, but then even looking at the cast now, you got Bruce Campbell, you got Tim Curry speaking in a weird foreign accent.
Yeah, Ernie Hudson, isn't he in that movie?
Yeah, this is the greatest thing he's ever done. He's really good in this movie. You know, usually he plays second fiddle to somebody else, but he was legit good. Laura Linney, who I typically don't really like. I didn't like her in this movie either. Dylan Walsh,
That's what his name is, yeah. The generic actor guy.
and that's exactly who he is here. He's the one that does all the talking with the realistic looking ape. Klutzy dumbass.
Was the realistic looking part sarcasm?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember being excited. Because I also saw it when I was a kid, and then when I watched it as an adult, I was like, oh yeah, Stan Winston effects. This is going to be good. And then I remember being really disappointed.
And Stan Winston was very excited to do this movie, purportedly, because Rick Baker was known as the monkey guy, and this was Stan Winston's chance to show that he could do it too.
Yeah, I was going to ask if Rick Baker was involved because I couldn't remember.
It was based on the Michael Crichton novel, but from what I understand, really had very little to do with the novel by the end.
Yeah, I've read the novel. There's a scene in an episode of King of the Hill that always bothered me, where a character says she's reading the book, and she got to the part where they're cutting the monkeys apart with the laser, but that doesn't happen in the novel, that happens in the movie. So maybe she was lying. Maybe that was supposed to be a joke, but I don't think so. I think whoever wrote that didn't read the novel.
What a segue into King of the Hill, man. Yeah, so things like that. There's a part where Laura Linney puts a giant diamond into a laser gun and starts cutting mutant apes apart.
While the volcano's going off and lava's all over the place.
Right. And I thought to myself, why did I think at any point in my life this was a serious movie?
I remember the book being more serious, but I remember toward the end it was, and this is also true for the second Jurassic Park novel that he wrote, it's basically just a bunch of unrelated action set pieces right after each other where they get attacked by hippos and then they get attacked by something else and then something else happens. And it all just keeps happening and then all of a sudden the book is over.
Exactly. That's how this felt too. I think Tim Curry has never gotten closer to doing a live action version of Nigel Thornberry. It was such a weird movie. I watched Django Unchained from 2012.
The start of Tarantino's downward slide, although I still thought it was good overall.
I liked this one.
I liked it too, but it was a signaling of a weakness in his filmography compared to what had come before, in my opinion. I think it was a little too long and kind of too self-indulgent.
Now, see, that's exactly how I felt about Death Proof, and that was 5 years before this.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that, I guess. Yeah, I don't even disagree.
Wow. Has that ever happened before?
I mean, I really like Death Proof. I like it a lot more than Django, although I would need to see Django again.
Dear Diary. No, I liked it, despite James Remar being in it twice. It's separate characters, but at least he gets blown away twice.
I don't get why you mind him at all. I think James Remar is awesome.
I think it was mostly just seeing Mortal Kombat Annihilation just made me so angry at him. So that's what I always associated his career with. He's doing that CGI fake ass somersault out of the sky. Ugh, it just makes me so angry thinking about it.
The greatest shot in the history of filmmaking.
Never give up hope.
You fucking idiot. I suppose he's kind of moved past Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I don't feel as strongly against him as I used to.
So you're growing as a person. That's a positive development.
A compliment? Dear Diary 2. I like how you can deliver compliments sarcastically and just dripping with contempt.
I like how the compliment is that you like or you don't mind James Remar. I never would thought that would be a compliment.
For you, that is a compliment.
Yeah.
I mean, when you told your kid, I guess you're not a complete failure.
Well, no, I was joking about that. I was being sarcastic.
Yeah, but he didn't realize that until you told him
too
later.
Stupid, yeah. Oh, man. Until I explained it to him 2 years after the fact. Gave him so much false confidence for those last 2 years of elementary school.
I remember when you took his report card and changed all his grades to be lower. You don't deserve these. I'm going to call that school. Who do they think they are? Tell my kitty is worth. I watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which I know you're so critical of pretty much everything.
Again, it's another one that like I said before, I haven't seen the whole thing because people I don't like it a lot.
As far as their movies go, it's pretty good. I think for Monty Python in general, though, just being sketch comedy, people are always going to pick out that one joke or that one line and just repeat it endlessly.
Yeah, I mean, the few little clips that I've seen, it doesn't seem like my kind of humor in the first place.
Have you ever seen any of the show?
Well, that's what I was talking about. Not clips from the movie, clips from their like sketches and stuff. I thought 12 Monkeys was pretty funny.
I can imagine in my head right now the sound you're going to make when I tell you I watched this. I watched comedians in cars getting coffee, that Jerry Seinfeld show.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly the sound I knew was coming. I know how you feel about Jerry Seinfeld. I know how you feel about most things in general, especially those that people consider humorous. I think I was more interested in the people he was going to talk to. Jerry Seinfeld is Jerry Seinfeld. He is who he is. He has over $1 billion. He had his show, and he very much does not care what people think about that. That's how he acts, too. So a lot of the show is his philosophy on comedy, and if you agree with that, then you'll probably really eat that up. But if you don't, you'll say, wow, it sounds like he's kind of being a little pretentious there.
The John Byrne of comedians.
Oh, I had to think about who you were talking about.
Are you trying to make me like Jerry Seinfeld? Is that...
No. I mean, I don't get the whole celebrity culture thing anyway.
I think you're just jealous, but okay.
Are you asking if I would like to have $1 billion? Because the answer would be yes.
Visit our Patreon page.
That's all I watched this month. And, looking at this list, what the do I do with my life? Oh, man. I should probably feed my kids once in a while.
Is that rain on your end?
Yeah. I should probably let them inside, too. Yeah, whatever. I'm busy. No, go. I don't care. I don't care. I read The Essential Ghostwriter, Volume 2, which was... Why is that funny?
Well, we'll find out after you talk about it a little bit.
That was in the time where he gained control of changing into Ghost Rider.
It's a sound effect book too. I seem to remember that they were pretty boring.
I was going to say they weren't particularly super interesting, but they weren't poorly written. And I think it's really funny that, he shows up and Ghost Rider's there, and nobody makes that connection. Ghost Rider rode into that alley on a flaming motorcycle from hell. And then Johnny Blaze walks out, and they're like, oh, hey, Johnny Blaze, you just walked out the same alley that Ghost Rider rode into on a flaming motorcycle from hell.
Was there a whole thing with Jesus as a character, but then it turns out he's just a mutant?
I think my stunned silence speaks for itself. Was that a thing?
Yeah, I think I've read the first 2 volumes of Essential Ghost Rider, and the only storylines that I found interesting were the origin, which is 1 issue, and Tony Isabella's storyline. Credit to Tony. It was actually interesting, but then they didn't let him finish it the way he wanted to, where it actually would turn out to be Jesus, and they said, no, it can't be Jesus, so he was like, well, it's a mutant.
I read The Corrections, which is a novel.
Is that Franzen or something like that?
Yes, Jonathan Franzen.
Why did you read that? What the hell is that?
I felt like reading a book a child would not read, for once. It popped up on my list, and once in a while I get a urge to read something that's considered good.
Okay.
But it's basically just a family and all the problems that they have. I did like it. It had characters where you just shake your head and you go, oh man, that is f***ed up. This isn't nonfiction, it's just, realistic. Ghost Rider only showed up twice. I liked it though.
I'll say that I work in a bookstore, but I don't read a lot of new releases because I feel like a lot of times when a new book comes out, the people that are talking about how good it is only read new books and don't really have a proper perspective on, the larger field. So I tend to read things that have kind of established themselves a little bit more.
Well, see, I would think you would not want to read this one because it's on all the bestseller lists and everything.
I feel like the kind of books that end up on those lists a lot of times are appealing to the kinds of people that only read books that are super big sellers and don't actually, they'll talk about how much they read and then they're like, oh, I own all of James Patterson's books and all of Danielle Steele. And I'm just like, f*** you. That doesn't count. Those aren't even, they're technically books. I would refer to them more as bound material, but, or maybe like fuel for the fire. So yeah, I mean, that's what keeps me away from stuff like that.
I also read Censor, that Junji Ito manga, which honestly sounds like a He-Man villain. Look out, it's Censor. He'll make us feel things, whether we want to or not. I thought it was good. It was published over here in English very recently, but it's one of his more recent creations, period. The whole book is that storyline, which hasn't happened for a while, because usually you'll have half the book be that storyline and then half just anthology standalone stories. Mm-hmm. It was sci-fi more than a straight horror, which I find very interesting that people automatically shut it down. I thought this one was good. It had like a Lovecraft type feel to it. I thought it was good. I don't let other people tell me what to think. Do you think that's okay? And the only thing I've been playing lately is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Shut up. Which I've had for a long time. It's just kind of one of those things you go back to once in a while. I think it's such a wild thing what that whole franchise has become. How huge and just all-encompassing.
I mean, mindless games appeal to mindless people.
Yeah, how's Medal of Honor Frontline?
It was awesome.
Oh, look at me. It's World War II, I assume. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Haven't heard this story before. I mean, it in itself is a sequel. So that's been my month. I also went to work. Or at least I said I did. But you can't watch Frankenstein if you're working.
Yeah, I can see why you work from home.
I've never fallen into that trap. I actually do work while I'm working.
Actually, I used to read books when I worked in the music department.
Maybe if you owned a bookstore.
Yeah, and I think I would throw out too many customers to actually be profitable.
Do you have Harry Potter? Do you have James Patterson?
I mean, I wouldn't even carry that stuff.
Do you have the Super Smash Bros. Player's Guide? So thanks for listening to us waste another talk about stuff you don't care about.
Look forward to us doing it again next month.
You can subscribe, or choose not to, I guess.
Yeah, don't let people tell you what to do. I think I made that joke before, though.
I think we've both made that joke multiple times.
Don't put that in there.